Or is it enough, let's say, one VO2 max test in the off season at the end, do a resting heart rate test, and put his activity class, leave it as how it's in the standard program at, I think it is 8.0, and just leave it like that for the entire season?
Yeah, a great question. One test is enough for VO2 max. In pro sports, you don't develop or the VO2 max so much that it would have a significant impact on the analysis results. And you can use the system also without the VO2 max level. If you don't do VO2 max testing, just use the activity class. About the resting heart rate, it automatically updates if a new resting heart rate is reached, so you don't need to test it in a way.
TeamBuildr is the online strength and conditioning software for performance coaches that allows you to create training programs and track progress over time for things like max back squat, jump height, or any other KPI that you collect. The free-form programming features allow you to brand and design your programs so athletes can complete them at their own pace or get extra rehab work in. The force plate and VBT integrations allow coaches to easily track KPIs that are critical for all sports. TeamBuildr Strength is currently offering a 30-day free trial when you sign up with the code EURO. Head to teambuildr.com and sign up with promo code EURO to access this exclusive offer. Hi and welcome back to the 46th episode of Science and Sports. My name is Simon and today I'm joined by Joel Wenning. Hi Joel.
Hello, Simon.
We recently have been in touch a little bit more because of our connections to Firstbeat. We, the Blue Devils Weiden, are using Firstbeat since 4 years, I think. And we are in regular contact with you, especially, or me and you in contact about the metrics, about the training load, just about general topics. So I'm very happy to talk to you today on my podcast. But before we get into the details of it, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Who are you? What are you doing at Firstbeat? And how did you get there?
Yeah, thanks all for the invite. Yes, so my name is Joel Wenning and located in Finland, and got the Firstbeat in 2022, so 3 years ago. But I did an internship in 2020 at Firstbeat, study at the University of Jyväskylä, exercise physiology, and that's how it came up then the Firstbeat in the end. And my personal background is in floorball. Actually, I have had the privilege to represent the national team of Germany. So my father is from Germany and mother is from Finland.
Okay. I wanted to talk to you today about the sports science in the practical field. A lot of times you learn a lot in university and you sit in a classroom for 4 to 5 years and then you get thrown into the real world in the practical field and you are a little lost at the beginning. At least it was for me like that because I was thrown in the cold water. I started using Firstbeat. I started to make my first real strength and conditioning programs, and it was hard at the beginning. I talked to a lot of people about using monitoring systems, and the most of them told me that it's not just about collecting the data, it's about you analyzing it and then interpreting it to tell the players what they can improve or talk with the coaching staff. When we talk about those common misconceptions about it's not just the data, it's about how you use it, you as someone working for a monitoring company, can you give us a little bit of insight run through of what is the company all about? What is the goal of all the different metrics? Obviously to help the player perform, but just as you as an insider, let's put it this way, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think that's the worst thing that you can do is to just collect data and then not take it into use. And that's quite common, I think. There are quite many sports monitoring companies and sport technologies used, and it's just nice to use all those different kind of tools and collect the data, but you really don't take it into use in your daily coaching. The goal of the company, the mission of the company is to advance or improve the athletes through advanced performance analytics and through physiology. So what we are measuring is heart rate variability, and acceleration data, and from those we are deriving our key metrics. And those include trim per minute, training effect, aerobic and anaerobic, acute load, movement intensity, heart rate recovery, quick recovery, and so on.
From all those metrics you just mentioned, what do you think, for you personally, are the most important for the athlete to monitor, or for the coach for the athlete to monitor on a daily basis? Does it depend on the sport you play, or do you think there are a couple who are really like on top?
Yes. If we want to say just a couple, then I would definitely go with the training effect. It's a very easy metric from 0 to 5 on how improving was your training for your aerobic system and anaerobic system. But it depends on what you want to achieve with the data. Are you on off season? Do you want to improve conditioning? Do you want to have a look at heart rate recovery? Do you want to have a look at internal load, which tells that how the body responds to the load? Or do you want to have look at the external load, which is that how much the body does on the ice, for example, now in ice hockey, as you are from that sport?
When we take the example ice hockey now, and also like you said, the score from 0 to 5, what should I do as a strength coach, for example, if a player in a ice hockey practice now, in this case, reaches the score of 5.0? Should I take him off because it's then too much for him, in theory, or should I just? I mean, it's hard in this sport, because you should maybe take a guy off every couple of minutes at the end of the practice, but in theory, you should take him off.
Depends on what was the goal for you in that training. If your goal was that you want to overreach the aerobic or anaerobic system, mostly it's the anaerobic system in ice hockey, then it's okay. If you are in off season, that's totally fine. If you are in season, you have 2 days to the game, then probably you need to take into consideration taking off the player from the ice.
But you know what I'm talking about, because it's hard as a strength coach, as a scientist, or also for the head coach, let's say, to then take guys off at the end of practice, because in a team sport it's hard to run some drills, for example. But I know where you're coming from. When we are already,
and if I may say that, I think the mistake has been already made earlier. If you are on a game day -2 and you are reaching a training effect of 5, you are probably doing something wrong and training too hard on that day. So
that's for sure.
It's like not the mistake of the strength and conditioning coach that you want to say that the guy should be taken from the ice. It's either in the communication between the strength and conditioning coach and the head coach, or then the head coach just don't want to listen to the strength and conditioning coach.
In our case, we sit down at the end of the week or beginning of the next week, and we try to make like a blueprint, like a plan for how we want the upcoming week to look like on the ice and off the ice, also using Firstbeat, also using our other tools for strength and conditioning. In my case, from your experience, how or which data is used by athletes or coaches that you know personally, for example, the most? Is it also always the ones that you told me about earlier, or does it depend on different boards?
Mostly it depends on the coach, not so much on the sport, because team sports are quite equal in terms of physiology in a broad range, and in that way all metrics apply to those. Of course, there's also the restriction of the subscription, that what metrics they have enabled. But yeah, quite commonly are used, for example, trim per minute, acute load, and chronic load, because they basically all have the same foundation of trim, and that's quite
Mhm.
easy to understand.
Do you have like a real life situation or a story that you can share with us where a coach who really followed along with this path of analyzing the data or getting the data and analyzing it paid out at the end?
Hard to pick one exact story. Yeah, I think we have from the Finnish league a nice example. So um, there, from the data we saw with the coach, and also we have a close connection with the coach, that they have been training quite hard, high training load in off season, in season, and they focused quite much on the aerobic side in conditioning training, and that paid off then later in the playoffs. So we saw that they were able still to maintain the performance even with high game loads, even when you are playing uh,
Mhm.
2 days in a row for a couple of weeks, for example. So
Okay.
yeah,
Another question what I'm really interested in is we talked about metrics. You shared your insights about that already. Is there a specific metric in your eyes that is flying like under the radar that could be used more, but is kind of like nobody used it for or used it enough?
I would still say training effect, because in team sports you can't fully control the intensities slash the heart rate zones in which the players are moving in team training, and therefore you need a clear metric or indicator on what kind of effect the training had on different energy production systems and on the condition of the entrance condition of the athletes. With the training effect, you have a clear indicator from 0 to 5 on how improving the training was for the athletes. Also, something that is quite commonly misinterpreted in team sport is that over 90% of heart rate max reflects maximal intensity or anaerobic energy production. But it's not like that. So, for example, top level endurance athletes can be over 1 hour on over 90% of heart rate max constantly, and there's almost none energy produced anaerobically. As you know that up to 2 minutes, the anaerobic energy production system plays a larger role than the aerobic energy production system. Everything after that, the aerobic energy production system plays a bigger role. Also, a common misinterpretation is that VO2 max would describe maximal intensity, but it's just the maximal intensity of your aerobic system. The anaerobic training effect is detecting high intensity intervals which have a metabolic meaning. So it's taking into account different aspects of the data. So it's taking into account peak intensity, so the level of effort, the interval to duration, how long is the interval, recovery periods, and work to rest ratios. So taking into account the reformation of ATP and creatine phosphate, starting intensity, and the HR gradient, so the level of effort, and the elapsed training time and overall session profile. If I would need to pick the best metric, the training effect would be it. But luckily I don't have to, and maybe I can still highlight here maximal intensity periods, which is a great feature to analyze the game demands. So maximal intensity periods takes into account the maximal intensity for a given time period. So let's say in ice hockey, we are typically analyzing shifts between 30 seconds to 1 minute. So 45 seconds is quite normal average for an ice hockey shift. With the maximal intensity periods, you can define the game demands either for the internal intensity or for the external intensity. And then you know what is demanded from the players in game and try to replicate those in your team trainings and drills. Maximal intensity periods are also often described as the worst case scenario. So, what are the highest demands that our athletes will face in a game?
You just mentioned VO2 max. When, let's say, you get a new player as a coach, and you, or let's say I'm the strength and conditioning coach responsible for managing the Firstbeat system, like it is
Hmm.
in our team. We get a new player. He runs through all the official league testings of my personal testings, the medical screens, and now he done all the tests, and now I can use those different data sets and plug it into your system. And for everyone who's not familiar with Firstbeat, you can put in his name, his birth date, his actual or real-time weight and height, and then you can also put in the VO2 max and the resting heart rate and also the activity class. And I mean, most of it is self-explanatory, but for
Hmm.
me, interesting is the VO2 max, the resting heart rate, and the activity class to get the best and most accurate results. Is it mandatory, or should you, I put it this way, do in the best case scenario multiple testings during the season to always have it as close as it is to the real time as possible? Or is it enough to do, let's say, one VO2 max test in the off season at the end, do a resting heart rate test, and put his activity class, leave it as how it's in the standard program at, I think it is 8.0 or 8, and
Hmm.
just leave it like that for the entire season?
Yeah, a great question. Um, One test is enough for VO2 max. In pro sports, you don't develop or the VO2 max so much that it would have a significant impact on the analysis results. And you can use the system also without the VO2 max level. If you don't do VO2 max testing, just use the activity class. About the resting heart rate, it automatically updates if a new resting heart rate is reached, so you don't need to test it in a way. And the same, of course, then for the heart rate max value.
Okay, that's interesting. That's good to hear, because we recently had the discussion, because a couple of guys are using some sort of tracking device while playing on the ice, and it reads that their VO2 max decreased a little bit since the start of the season, or since the VO2 max test in beginning of August. And then we
Hmm.
were discussing it, like, it could it be actually true that the VO2 max goes down if you are practicing each and every day? Shouldn't it go up, and vice versa? So that's why I was questioning you for the VO2 max in that case. If it's
Yeah,
important to do one more, let's say in November break or in December, and let's put one before the playoffs to have real accurate data or not.
yeah, and not necessary for Firstbeat itself. If you want to have a look at yourself at the VO2 max value, is it improving or not? Then of course, but I think you referred to wearable devices that the players are using on the ice
Hmm.
with the
Yeah.
VO2 max, yeah, and those are analyzing the VO2 max via GPS data. So and the heart rate, and in ice hockey, when you are inside the rink, you really don't get accurate
Yeah.
GPS data. So that's not usable. You can use it if you go for a run. The analytics are very good, and it also takes into account the uh, height elevation or the elevation, and then it's accurate, but not on the ice.
Okay. When we switch it up a little bit now, we talked about some, like, key performance indicators of tracking players on the ice in this case. But there's also this other part of the system, and that focuses on like recovery, also like stress management in that kind of way. And can you guide us a little bit through how important recovery is, how important sleep is for maintaining or for reaching high performance as an athlete, and also how your system can help and help the players to get to their goals or to get to their maximum performance? This podcast is presented by Like Me, your partner for social media and online marketing from Weiden, and Praxis im Salzhaus, your contact for physiotherapy and health in Altenstadt.
Yep, yep. I would say the recovery is the other side of the coin. So on the other side, you have the load, and on the other side, you have the recovery. Of course, if you don't have enough load, you can't recover from anything. And if you don't have recovery, you can produce high loads. We are tracking recovery via heart rate variability and sleep data. So we have the option to do a 3-minute test, which is called the quick recovery test, which measures heart rate variability and resting heart rate, and it has individual scaling, so you need 3 to 5 measurements to get reliable results out of it. And from the test, you get the recovery score from 0 to 100, how good the player is recovered. Then there's also the possibility to very detailed analytics with our bodyguard device, so you can use it for stress and recovery measurements, see how the lifestyle of the athlete is affecting the recovery, how is he sleeping, how is the travel schedule affecting his sleep. And then lastly, there's also the possibility to get sleep data to our platform from Garmin, so how long the athletes have slept and what's their sleep score, what's their heart rate variability during the night.
Do you think that people nowadays spend too much time using wearables to track their sleep, track their stress levels, and just overthink it too much?
Hard to
Because
say in general.
if you start to like use a wearable, you tend to, or I tend to like look at it every couple of minutes to check if I feel better or not, and then I don't really
Yeah.
actually work out as hard as I could because my wearable says I should rest a little bit more. And then I don't know, it could be that I can't reach like my full potential if I'm overthinking it too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that might be one of the cases. In general, I think wearables are good. They are good in measuring in resting state, not in team sports where the intensity is changing all the time. But yeah, hard to say. It of course depends always on the individual on how much they look
Yeah.
at it. But in general, in team sports, it's hard because most teams have, or the athletes have, different wearables, and they are measuring, for example, the resting heart rate. You think that it's a quite simple metric. It's the lowest heart rate during the night, for example, but
Mhm.
different companies are measuring it in different ways. So for some, it could be the uh, resting heart rate after 2 hours of sleep, or there's a specific time window where they measure it. For some, it might be a 5-minute average from the lowest heart rate and so on. So you can compare those exactly to each other. And it's also the problem that the coaches don't get actually the data because there are so many devices in use.
Yeah. Do you think, or what are for you, in your experience, like the biggest interpreting mistakes that you can do while watching those, let's say, resting heart rates or heart rate variability as a normal guy just working out?
Hmm. Um, of course, when you are doing or watching these kind of metrics, you need to know those things that affect, for example, those results. So if you are taking caffeine, it straits affect your heart rate variability, although
Mm-hmm.
you are actually recovered. So the caffeine intake itself, it doesn't make your recovery state worse.
Yeah.
And of course, I would still listen quite much to my own experience of the recovery, and also not neglect the training load. If you're just looking at recovery, then you are missing also the load part. So if you have bad recovery but you don't have any training load, you are probably still good to train
Yeah.
some.
Same with the nutrition and the working out part. It goes hand in hand. Say, then on the other aspect, like you said,
Yes,
the coin, recovery and workload, you have to be good in both.
right.
Yeah. Where do you think that, to switch it up a bit, where do you think sports science is heading in the next couple of years? We see the trend of more and more AI use, or less and less people who are actually like in charge in
hmm
this world now. AI takes over at the moment. So do you think it will also happen in the branch of sports science?
Definitely, in some way at least. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I think every company is now exploring it. It's not a secret that we as well. And yeah, definitely AI will be a part of the future. Um, Also, I think invisible monitoring will be one to make like the data collection process as invisible as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in heart rate monitoring, there will be always some kind of sensor that's measuring the heart rate signal. So that can be detected, for example, through video, what could be referred as really invisible. And what was I about to say still? Yeah, maybe the fact that Martin Boucher has talked nicely about sports science 3.0, and we had this generation of sports science 2.0 where we had a lot of data, we collected everything, we tried to focus everything, but now we are again in the phase where we reduce the metrics, we want to select the key metrics that we want to have a look at and really analyze those well and take action based on those.
Mm-hmm. I recently read something as well that the possibility of putting your data into this AI system to really get like let's say a year worth of data compressed into this AI machine, and it can really suggest to you how, based on the experiences the players had earlier, where it could go into the next couple of days or next couple of weeks. And that's also, it was about strength and conditioning. So they put in a lot of metrics of weights and drills and sets and repetitions. So it then could, in theory, estimate where you should be at the moment regarding your strength, regarding your, let's say, 1 rep max, 3 rep max, or also in which way your power goes. So then
Mm-hmm,
it could suggest, in, let's say, in 3 weeks you could achieve this amount of weight in a back squat. In a year,
mm-hmm.
if you continue your program like you had in the other years, you could achieve this and this. Do you think it also could be that in, let's say, Firstbeat, for example, where the biggest thing is to measure the heart rate variability, the training impulse, that this could also be something worth exploring or could have a benefit in the future?
Yes, definitely. I think if you make it very simple, you just take the results that we have from papers, from studies, how much they have improved their condition with specific training. Then you plan it to your schedule, repeat it, and then you already have an estimate on what the conditioning will be at the end
Hmm.
of the season or the period.
Before I want to come to my last segment of our little talk, I have one more question about the AI topic. Do you think it could change the way coaches operate or make decisions?
At least it will make the decision making faster, but
Hmm.
will it change really the way they operate or work? I don't know. Don't have the answer yet for it.
It's interesting how it will develop in the next couple of years. I think in some cases it could be a really good help. I mean, you have been a strength and conditioning as coach as well. Sometimes the amount of stuff you have to do on the same day, let's say, it could
Hmm.
help you out a lot if you have to manage like a whole ice hockey team, or even a whole football team with even more players. I think it could really help you out. But still, at the end of the day, you need a human to do the work, to look at the players working out. And the same goes for the work at Firstbeat, I think. And it's a
Yeah,
completely different branch of sports science than strength and conditioning. But still, you think you need someone who really makes the decisions, also the coach at the end of the day. But yeah, it's
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, pretty interesting topic.
yeah, and also here you need, as you are probably working with ChatGPT, you need to ask the right questions. And
Yeah,
even with the AI in sports science, you still need to ask the right questions and
yeah,
know what you actually want to know.
yeah. That's true. If you put in the right phrases, you will get a very interesting or a very good answer to a question, especially also in sports science. But if you don't know how to formulate it, or also the researching part of it,
Yeah,
then yeah, you will get a lot of negative information back, I think.
yeah, yeah. And you always have to be critical.
Yeah. And don't believe everything you read at
Yes.
first. Research
Yeah.
after. Joel, before we wrap it up, like I said, I have a couple of questions more. I called it the quick fire round. I did it a couple of times in the past already, so buckle up. I will just ask you a couple of sport related personal questions. Just give me a yes or no answer, or a quick answer like the name suggests.
Hmm.
Okay, before you work out, coffee or pre-workout shake?
None. I don't use caffeine at all.
Okay. What is your playlist for working out?
Podcast always
During a workout?
during a workout. Yes.
Okay, that's first time I heard that. Interesting. A little sports science based now. Which is a sports scientific myth that you would love to debunk?
Heart rate zones are enough for team sports conditioning.
Heart rate zones? Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
that's true. One metric that you would track forever if you only could pick one, the rest get deleted.
Shrimp.
Why?
Because from that I also get then acute load, chronic load, and shrimp per minute, which tells them about the intensity.
Okay. But for telling the players or for you personally?
For me personally,
Okay. Last question. Who in your time as a coach or a strength coach or working for Firstbeat was your favorite athlete who you worked together, or who inspired you to be a better coach, let's say, and to have the best like overall connection with? It's hard to
I have
pinpoint one down, probably.
yes. Um, yes. So if I have to say an athlete, I will say Anton Lundell, who works as a Firstbeat ambassador, so the center and the two-time Stanley Cup winner from Florida Panthers.
Hmm. Is there a specific reason for that? Like a mentoring part, or just great person, great attitude?
Great person, and great story.
Okay, sounds good. Before we wrap it up, what's your final advice you could give strength coaches, you could give coaches working with Firstbeat, or in general improving the trainings that coaches run with data?
Take advantage of the experts that you have near you. So don't try to figure it out all by yourself. Use other that know things better than you do, and you will learn.
That's a good one. I have again for the third time the last question now. Do you think it's necessary for like a coach who is coming up or first time user of your system that he will talk to the coach or talk to the players and go through every single metric that you can offer? Or do you think it's also okay to only use a couple of metrics?
Yes, I just lost connection from my headphones, but I think I got your question.
Okay.
So yeah, I will just start with three metrics. For example, training effect and time in the high intensity zone. So
Okay.
those are quite easy to start with, quite easy, understandable, and yeah. So those could be the ones with which you get started. But
Yeah.
again, have a talk with your Firstbeat professional, with our CSM team, to figure out the metrics that you want to have a look at. In your case, in what you are doing, and then of course it depends a little bit also on the sports as well.
Okay, fourth time now, last question for this time for real. Was there any part in you who was like, for once when you talked with some coaches about the Firstbeat program, where you were like, what is he doing?
I think I have to neglect myself of saying anything here. So yeah, there are different cultures and different ways of doing, and there's
Yeah,
no way to do it right. But of course, there's always more or less room for improvement.
that's for sure. And probably every coach has their different ideas, different metrics they want to track. And depending on the sport that they're working in, also interested in different metrics too. Joel, thank you very much for your time today, for your insights about you, about your journey, about the work you do for Firstbeat. You helped me personally a lot out. I will stay in touch with you about my work at the Blue Devils Weiden. And like I said, thank you for everything that you helped me out with already. And I hope we can stay in touch and might follow up with a second episode together soon.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Greetings to Finland and take care. Bye
Likewise
bye.
to Germany.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the podcast, leave a rating or comment, and share it with someone who loves sports science. And for more content, follow me on Instagram at science_in_sports_. See you in the next episode.